Welcome to the Outer Realms with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live right here on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. Thank you big time to Folgers Coffee, who have been part of our journey since the very beginning. Without you, we would not be here. So we appreciate you so very much. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, who is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music. And he is the voice that you hear on our intro and our outro. That is his music, to which he created. And we're just so honored that he would pass that on and allow us to use it. So he's been very creative and just awesome. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis, again, the man behind the artwork of The Outer Realm. You can find him on Facebook and Instagram. Does a lot of commissioned pieces, has a lot of stuff ready to go. Again, you're getting into the horror genre and all kinds of phenomenal stuff. But again, just remember, he does commission pieces. I've seen him do phenomenal stuff. So anyway, check him out. Anyway, tonight, and I really hope I'm going to say this right, because I know you're sitting here waiting, Rob. Rob Gutro. Please nod if I said that right. So yeah, maybe no. Okay. But anyway, he's here for the very first time, and we're going to be discussing his book series, Pets and the Afterlife. And I know a lot of people love this, and we've had a lot of requests to bring on people who wish to talk about pets. So tonight is the night. So head on over to one of the 8 designated chat rooms. Please bear with us once you guys all start filing in here. It's like a super highway of 8 lanes coming down into one. And the objective, of course, is to let our guests speak. And if we have the opportunity to bring your questions and comments, of course, we certainly will. So, Amelia, we are ready for...
Yes.
So, here we go.
Yes, very excited. I have a lot of people really, really excited about this show tonight. Rob Gutro is an author, paranormal investigator, and medium with inspired ghost tracking of Maryland. Since he was a child, he could receive messages from ghosts or spirits who have crossed over. As a scientist, he also provides some scientific explanations about how energy is the baseline for the afterlife and the medium that entities use to communicate. In 2005, Rob's late puppy passed. Poor. That's awful. And inspired Rob to write his first book and enabled him to communicate with pets. Rob participates in private paranormal investigations. He also helps spirits cross over and has provided countless messages from people or pets as ghosts or spirits. And he also lives in a haunted house.
Ooh.
Please welcome Rob Gutro to the show.
Hello.
I'm so sad the puppy died. Hi.
Hi, Amelia. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
How are you? Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you for joining us. Okay, please, did we say your last name properly? I always try to get people, like when the agents send me stuff, sound it out like phonics.
It was close enough. I pronounce it Gutro, but
Gutro. Okay.
Yes.
I add the ooh from being Italian. Forgive me.
And I'm French,
sorry.
so let that go. We get everything
We do
wrong.
that European. We change it to a long instead of a short. Okay, that's all I
I'm
have
French,
to do. Is
Irish,
you
and
short
Italian, and it's kind of a massacred French name, so we're all good.
Yeah.
I get massacred on a regular basis. It's usually how I can tell when I'm being, when I have a telemarketer after me, I'm going, "What? How did you say that?" Oh, I know. Okay, there we go. But thank you again for joining us. Definitely, a lot of people have been asking for this for a long time. We try to do it at a really lighthearted time of year. because there's a lot of loss of life, and people, for a lot of people, our fur babies are our babies. And we get a lot of signs, much like you would in the spirit world. And I think it's a matter of being aware of those signs, because life keeps you so busy, you just don't recognize them. You don't think that pets could leave signs. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So, where would you like to start with all of this? Because I want you to get in as much as possible to make this time well worth it for you.
Sure. Well, I will tell you that we do meet our pets on the other side, and as a scientist, it's really important for me to prove things. So, so I talk about the science of energy. I talk about behavioral science. I talk about how pets learn, and as they learn, how they can convey things back to us, and how they take in the environment. And there's many, many ways that they do communicate with us from the afterlife.
Oh,
That was me. Sorry.
okay.
Ripped the paper a little too loudly. Sorry.
I completely believe that, because I've had several different experiences from my pets. The last pet to die, I hear her barking all the time. I'm thinking, because my scientific brain says, oh, it's got to be residual. But it gets weird when it's in response to what you're talking, when you're communicating about the pet in general. So there is a belief that spirits are essence, reincarnation. And if you're looking at the Buddhist belief, that you can't come back as a pet. Do pets have these little, I always say, because my Chihuahua was 3 pounds, do they have these little essences? Is there human essences? Can we come back and forth as anything we want?
Well, it hasn't been my experience that we've been able to come back and forth as like cross the animal kingdom, but
Okay.
Anything's certainly possible. I don't know the answers.
Okay. Yeah, it's a
But
curiosity, because that would explain. I mean, the ability to communicate. But I would like to hear your theories on that.
Well, I sometimes I joke that I say, if you've ever caught your coworker licking their hand like a cat, then you know what they used to be.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. All right. Well, then with spirits, let's just look at one of your experiences with the loss of a pet. How did you first off become involved in wanting to, or delving into pet communication? Was that from the loss of one of your pets first off? Because you have 4
Yeah,
books. That's pretty impressive.
thank you. Yeah. Well, people from the other side just won't stop talking to me, and actually, it's a good thing.
Including the pets, apparently.
That's sweet, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was 13 years old, my grandfather appeared to me, and he scared me. And I shelved it until my puppy Buzz passed away, and that's this guy over here. He's a
So
Weimaraner.
Yeah.
He was 7 months old when he died. He was a victim of a car accident when his leash opened. So that was a very traumatic experience for me back in 2005. But he blew the doors off of my abilities to communicate with people and pets who passed on the other side. And he did a lot of things. And some of your viewers might be able to relate to these things. Like you mentioned hearing a bark, Michelle.
Yes.
Yeah. So barks, meows, whinnies from horses. Any domesticated pet has the ability to communicate with us from the other side. And they often do things that they used to do in life. So they may appear as a shadow figure. Later on, maybe we can address the topic of energy.
Yes, of course.
Also, I just want you to know that there's also, I make a distinction between ghosts, which are earthbound, and spirits, which have crossed over.
Yes.
And 99% of our pets have crossed over, so they're in spirit and they'll be waiting for us. They have the ability, thanks to the help of human spirits, to send us things like coins, and they may, with human spirit help, have us turn on the radio at a certain time, or walk into a certain place that's playing a song that may remind you of them. So a lot of the same kinds of things that human spirits do.
Wow.
Oh, Versace's going to be putting the Disney Channel on.
I know, the little personalities. Yeah, we have ghost cats here in the house. It's an old house, and it's got a lot of history, and people will have things, rub up against their calves, and just
Or
swatting
jump in
around
front of them.
Yeah, we've had cats pass away, and they'll jump up on the bed, and you can feel them jumping on the bed. Like, I guess it's fairly limited, basically, is what you're saying, on their own, but with the help of spirit individuals, humans, that they can really expand on the communication.
Yeah, they do. So typically, what they do, they'll do things like they did in life. So cats often jump up on the bed. A lot of folks have reported feeling that after their cat passed away. I do a lot of pet readings, and I do them on the weekends. And
Oh, good.
sometimes a cat will tell me that they will sleep, or they have slept against the person's head, the pet parent's head, or they'll at night they will take their paw and they'll muss their hair, their pet parent's hair. And it's amazing to me when I get these confirmations back that this is exactly what their particular cat did.
I love that.
I did a reading for a dog this past weekend, and every reading I do is different. There's always really one thing that triggers the acknowledgement of their pet. So as I was going through this reading with this dog, and when I do a reading, I hear them in my head, or I see pictures that they share. And the dog stopped in the middle, and they're like a 3 to 5 year old child. They'll stop in the middle of saying something, and then they'll say, "This dog said a blue toy." And I thought, okay. So I do readings by email. So I typed it up. So I said, okay, your dog stopped and said something about a blue toy is very special to them. And then the dog stopped and said, "My elephant." And I said, okay, your dog stopped me again and says, "My elephant." And I said, I'm not sure if there's a connection between the two, or what's going on here, or I'm just throwing this out there. So the mom wrote me back and said that one of the dog's favorite toys is a blue elephant.
Aww.
Now, there's no way I would know that.
No.
So,
and I love it because it's just so benign, like such a basic thing and it means volumes.
Random too.
Yeah, she must have felt so good hearing that. Like, it really validated you. If because I think sometimes when people seek out messages from the other side, from mediums or psychics regarding their animals, they're ridiculed by other people. They're more than when we seek them out for our past loved ones and our family members. Have you ever had a pet with a grievance from the other side?
A grievance, that's good. I have conditions.
I wanted more food. Like, you know what I mean? Like, did they ever say
a grievance?
A grievance, yeah. Were they ever pissed off or something?
Well, they can get irritated, but because pets are really the embodiment of unconditional love,
that's true.
They know that humans have some issues.
Just a few.
Yeah. And they really only connect. So they connect with the like for animals that come from abusive situations. So my partner and I work with animal rescues, and we've been doing that for 15 years. And currently our 3 dogs are all rescues, and they all had. They were all came from abusive situations. So when you have that, your pet, whatever pet you have, will connect to your family, taking them in and caring for them, and not the family that abused them.
That's really nice to know.
I'm glad to hear that, because there's too many of them that sit and rescue.
Now,
Yeah.
do you, in your opinion, do you feel that they forget that abuse over time, or it really stays
Oh,
with them, eh?
Yeah,
Because
they
I've
don't.
had lots of rescues. I also, like you, work with rescue.
Do
They're
you,
all
Michelle? You
they're
say
all rescues.
are all your kids are rescues?
They are my fur kids. Yep.
Your fur kids? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to distinguish
Meanwhile, my
between
real kids going, wait, what?
the fur kids.
Yeah. Right.
So, do you find that some of them are you able to tell what abusive situations they came from, or in what ways they were abused?
Yes. A lot of times, because I will go through rescues, you get a little bit of insight as to where they come from. The three that I have now, two of them were in breeder situations. One was a cage breeder, and she came in at about 18 months old, already been a mama, and
oof.
Oh my
she now no, it's really traumatic. Like there's a lot more to it. Like she's now, I'm guessing she was given up or put on the streets. She's just a Chihuahua. She was only about 5 pounds. This specific dog, because she was prone to seizures. She's had seizures. She now has, some brain damage. She can't walk much anymore. We do everything. She's on holistic stuff, like naturopathic stuff. I mean, we've extended her life years. But, I always say to myself, I wonder if she just wants us to stop. She's happy when it's time to go in the car, happy when it's time to eat. She's aware of a lot, but and the other little one, she's only 2, and they were trying to breed her at 14 months.
God.
And I know, and I guess it was traumatic for her. So they listed her. I bought her. And was because as soon as I saw her, they trimmed back all her fur. I just knew instinctively, and I just went for it. I've bought a lot of dogs like that in really horrific situations that have been abused because they want money for their dogs. I'll do
That's
it, or
yeah.
I'll deal through a rescue because I'm affiliated with rescues. I have people on who are in chat who are affiliated with rescues. My daughter does a rescue blog and is affiliated with several. She works for a vet clinic, so it
That's
comes
awesome.
to you when it's meant to, right?
Mhm.
And and my other dog, again, she was never cared for. The third one, also a mama at a really young age. Now she's a happy 10-year-old old lady. Is just really ornery, but she's happy. So it's hard. So I had an idea. There were breeder situations for those three anyway.
Wow. Well, thank you for rescuing them.
No,
Uh, the,
pleasure.
the the memories really do stay with them. So, um,
Oh, I was hoping not.
Yeah.
and it tragically, it's just like a person being abused. That the memory stays with you. I mean, it fades over time. It's less over time,
Mm.
but it's still you don't forget it. So one of our dogs came to us, and he is a 10-pound Dachshund Chihuahua mix.
Wow.
The um, the family that turned him in was not bright enough, not really
Mm.
bright, because they wrote on the turn-in form that the little girl in the family kept pulling the dog's tail. Now this is a little 10-pound dog, until the dog was crying, and then the dog turned around and nipped,
Oh,
Right.
well,
and so the mother the mother wrote this on the turn-in form that she kicked this 10-pound dog across the room because the daughter was abusing the dog.
Mm.
did she break the ribs on the dog?
I don't know because the dog was in rescue for several months before we found them.
Oh,
Um,
this is traumatic for me. Yeah.
it is. It's
Mm.
horrendous. So when we adopted this dog, he was every time he saw a woman, he would shake, and it took a
Mm.
year for him to
Yeah.
stop shaking.
Terrible.
Yeah. Another one was abused by a man with a beard and black pants because every time somebody with a beard would come over or black
That
pants,
would be
he
it.
would nip them.
The trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, the triggers.
So yeah.
People
So
don't think that, to me,
yeah.
it's common sense. I once had a Chihuahua I rescued. She was 9 months old. She was kept in a hamster cage, little tiny hamster cage. She was so emaciated because her teeth were so bad that her body was eating its own muscle mass.
Oh my gosh.
And I went in and I obviously I bought her. I found an ad. I looked at her and I could tell by looking at her, I'm going, she's not right. This little one. I went and looked at her. I took her to my vet. The vet's just like, they basically filed charges against the other vet because they did not, they cleaned her gum line. Her teeth were terrible. And they did not put her under anesthetic because I got the bill. I saw the bill from those people. That would be pretty much torturing that dog.
Oh my
No
God.
kidding. I would never
So
do that without
my
freezing.
vet had charges filed through the Veterinary Association and had that charged.
I
Because
think
that woman wasn't very bright, first off. She gave me the paperwork, and I looked at the paperwork, and I'm like, where's the anesthesia? Where's there freezing? Where's there anything? There wasn't anything because she paid minimal to do it.
that's inhumane that a vet would do that,
Yeah.
especially here.
I'm just gobsmacked when I look at some of the things that people do to their animals.
I think they should have, like Ontario, we have the health insurance here, and all over Canada, every province has their own insurance. They should have that for pets. I really feel that
people would be more diligent with healthcare for animals because it's so expensive. I agree with you 100%.
I believe that animals would have a better life if we did take care of them, as much as we could, that there would be more homes and less in shelters
But
and at the pound, because
that's
a lot of
because
people
you
don't
believe that the animals are sentient beings. So to
Well,
Rob and
yes,
Amelia, how many
my dog
people have
is my
you?
grandson. It's my
Yes.
daughter's dog.
But
He's
how
my
many
own, he's
people
my
have you
grandson.
come across who don't even believe that animals are sentient beings?
I understand that, but I also believe that people don't realize how much it costs to have a dog the first year of
Sure.
its life either.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
believe they underestimate it, the expense of, if we could just even cover the first year, maybe, it would be.
It's hard. Here's a question popping up, so we'll switch gears a little bit before we all start
Yes.
wailing.
Lori
Getting mad,
Washington.
one of the two.
Hi, Lori. Lori asks, what are some other signs we can look out for to connect with our pets?
Great question.
So there are quite a few signs, and a lot of them are very unique, actually. One thing that I mentioned in my books is the science of energy. So what happens after we all die is that our memories, personality, and knowledge of this life combines with the physical energies that we have in our life, in our body rather. That is the essence of a soul. Memories, personality, and knowledge combined with physical energies. That energy has to go somewhere. Therein we make a choice. We choose to either stay earthbound at a fixed location of our choosing, like a home or a place where we passed, or we cross over and join the energies of the cosmos or heaven or paradise or whatever you want to call the other side. So that said, because they're energies, they require, like people, they require energy to get strong enough to communicate. And so what I found, Amelia and Michelle, is that they use either physical energies or emotional energies. Physical energies are heat, light, water, and electricity. Those are things that they use to get strong enough to send us a message. Earthbound ghosts, which are 99% not our pets, just 1% of our pets.
Right.
Earthbound ghosts use emotional energy like fear, anxiety, depression, and anger. You will very rarely see a pet stay earthbound. Spirits use love, faith, and hope. So sometimes you will see a shadow of a pet in your home, or you'll see them visibly in your home. It depends on how much energy they have. So the reason they appear as shadows is because they don't have enough either physical energies or emotional energies to show up in full color. So they appear as a shadow.
That's interesting. There's a lot of controversy with shadow beings. So it's interesting. It's like, how do you know? It's one of the good shadows or one of the more malevolent, because there's so much around that. Any suggestions?
Well, so two things. I just look at entities as either having a lot of energy or not enough energy. So to me, a spirit who is crossed over or an earthbound ghost is kind of like a light bulb that doesn't have a big charge
Okay.
and on a dimmer switch. So if you have it on the lowest setting, you can see the outline.
Right.
If you turn that energy up, you can see it. You can see all the filaments.
Full
And to
on,
me, that's what a ghost or spirit is, with energy and without energy.
Okay, that's really interesting. We have another question coming up.
Yep. Hi, Tamara. Tamara asks, do you find that the pet that has passed away over usually come to give a message, or do they just miss their owners?
They do both, but usually they come around birthdays, anniversaries, or holidays, just like people do. And that could be anniversaries of adoption or anniversaries of passing, or their birthdays or your birthday. And the reason they do that is because, like people, they sense our emotional energy changes during those times. So when we celebrate our birthday, our emotional energy is elevated, and pets recognize that. I mean, pets also recognize it when you come home and you're happy to see them. So, and they in turn react being happy to see you. So they're reading your energy, your emotional energy, as well as your physical reaction.
Which they're like amazing at doing in life. They're little mini psychics.
They are.
They are. So they know when you're having a bad day. They know when you don't feel well. They'll stay by your side. They'll, I imagine you are in your afterlife what you were in life, as far as your attributes. Another question.
Also, Tamara, this is a really good question, and it segues right in. Do you find some pets are more psychic than others?
Well, certainly the ones that interact with us more, dogs and cats really are much more. They're much more able to read our emotions than gerbils per se, because gerbils don't have as much interaction with us. We don't give gerbils and I only use gerbils as an example, but we don't give gerbils a specific bed, if you will, right next to our bed, like we do with cats and with dogs. But horses are an exception, because horses are very intuitive. I've actually done some readings for horses.
Really?
Yeah.
They're beautiful animals, just beautiful.
I've communicated with dogs and cats, of course, birds, some birds, horses,
I've had birds.
Ferrets.
Yep, lots of parrots.
Gerbils, and even a rat.
Right.
It was a pet.
Hey, rats are totally bloody underrated.
I think so.
I think so too. I do. I think they're really lovely.
Well, not by lab scientists.
No.
Sadly.
Sadly, no.
But horses are. They're very I've had friends who've had horses, and after seeing The Horse Whisperer, that show, you realize, when that horse was injured trying to protect, his owner in an accident. And if no one's seen the movie, I recommend it, because she was so fearful of the horse after that, and it took somebody much like yourself to come, who was working with the horse, to say, make her realize, like, he saved your life, like he really loves you that much, and they were able to make the connection again. So how many people go through life in a sort of a situation where they have no idea, because not everybody can speak to their pets. Like even the really seasoned media can always speak with their pets. Like they just don't connect that to a pet the same way they do to an individual.
Yeah, that's true. I will tell you, though, I'll give you an example of a gentleman that came to me and about his horse that had passed, that he was very connected to.
Yeah.
He had a farm. He has a farm in, I think, Pennsylvania, and he told me that his favorite horse had passed, and he really missed this horse. And one day when he was in the barn and he was thinking of his horse, he heard the horse's distinct whinny coming from outside the barn. So he thought he must have been imagining that it was that horse's whinny. So he said that he dropped what he was doing and he went outside the barn to see what horse was out there. and there was no horse out there. And he realized that it was his horse that
Oh,
was trying to connect to him and let him know that he was still very much around.
So I think I love that story because it's like what we were basically started the show with. They leave signs, but we're just not making the connections. Right? Like it's like anything. I always tell people if you have a pet, follow their lead, or if you have even a regular like a human spirit in the home, just pay attention. Life keeps you really busy, and people look for signs all the time. And I mean, my little Chihuahua
yeah.
died 2 years ago. She truly was my baby, and it was a long, long haul. And I still hear her barking, and because I always say, I'd look at her and I'd say, you know, "You little adult, get out of my dog," because she just really thought she was one, and
Mhm.
she would just, if you're sleeping in the morning, she has to go. She stands on your chest and just stares at you. I'm like, "Can I help you?" It was just stuff like that. There's larger than life personality. But while we're on that topic, Amelia, would you mind?
Yes. Hi, Wayne. When my cat passed away, I had to pack away all of his stuff because I had a hard time seeing it. I put a plant on top of his huge cat tree. The next morning, I found the plant on the floor and under the
How
couch.
dare you
Was
put a
that a?
plant on my cat tree?
I don't like it.
I know.
I
How
need
dare
my
you?
tree.
I know.
Well, the first thing I would ask is, if was there another cat in the house? um,
No, that was the
prob-
last one.
yeah.
That was the last cat.
So if not, it was if there's nothing you can physically explain it as, it was an acknowledgement of the tree, and it was most likely an accident that it was knocked over.
No, that's interesting. I'm pretty sure I remember this story. That cat had it out for that plant, and that was the one time where
Well,
that plant really went. I'm just
That
like,
he didn't add to the. See, that
no,
makes
he did.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's like
yeah.
not on
He
my tree.
no, no, yeah, because he was elderly when he passed too, so he had a good life. But another
Oh.
question.
Yes, Lori Washington. Hello. Can our living pets still see them and interact with them?
I'm not quite understanding the question.
yeah,
Can
Oh, can
your
our
living
living pets?
pets,
Got it.
yeah, still
I'm
see
okay,
see the
Lori.
ones that have passed?
I'm okay. Sorry.
yes,
It's
and
Christmas time. We're all drained.
yeah, no worries. So that's another thing that I address in my books too. Is that so I've also studied not only the behavior and learning of pets, but I've also had to study their physiology. So what I've learned is that dogs and cats have different cones and rods in their eyes, and that enables them to see faster movement than humans can.
Yeah.
As a paranormal investigator, I've learned that we can use high-speed cameras to catch the movement of a quick-moving spirit or
Mm,
an earthbound ghost.
right.
Dogs and cats don't need that. They can actually see them head on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they also have a different physiology in their ears, in their hearing. So if you think of a dog whistle that we can't hear, but dogs can hear, um,
True.
spirits can speak at different frequencies that we can't hear.
Yes.
So when I'm on a paranormal investigation with somebody doing with a recorder, they will ask a question and we can't hear the answer, but we'll play back the recording
Maybe
and
peace.
then we'll hear the answer because it's
Right.
spoken at a different frequency. So dogs and cats can hear and can see your dogs and cats that passed over.
Hmm.
So, and a couple of other follow-ups to that, check birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays again. And
That's
if
a
your
good
dog or
point.
cat is staring at what appears to be nothing and it's not a bug,
It's something else.
it may be them.
Right.
Um, I've also learned too over time that spirits don't need to stand on the floor. They can actually stand a little bit higher.
Right. That's
uh,
true.
so,
Is
and
that a dimensional thing, you think? Could that be a dimensional thing?
I don't think they really even need to acknowledge the floor.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Um, and I had always thought that they would have to be on the floor level because I'm thinking logically in the
Physical.
physical world
Yeah.
like a scientist. And then I thought, no, because I've talked to so many people that have said, no, my dog or cat is looking up a little bit, and
Mm.
there's
Yes.
nothing there. It's not a bug. It's not
Hmm.
pollen or anything else.
Right. Right. That is so interesting. It's so true. that they just don't have those limitations. When my sister's cat passed away, her cat used to sleep in one of her bottom dresser drawers. And after she passed away, obviously my sister took her things out of the drawer. The cat just favored it, so she just turned it into a little whatever bed. And
Aw.
for many times after her passing, my sister would wake up and the drawer was pulled open and all the clothes were messed up, like so, and with an indentation where she had been laying. And she was just like, what the heck? I said, you say you're not psychic. Look at you. She's always the one of the three of us that says, I have a psychic bone in my body. Yeah, okay. I thought that was pretty talented. But this is a cat that could turn on lights and open
Yeah.
doors.
Oh my God.
So I'm
Cats
not
are so smart.
find a way to get in there. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, some animals obviously leave more of a in-your-face sign than others.
Mhm.
She goes, I darn near just like tripped over that drawer in the morning. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting.
It's funny.
Well,
They will
habitual.
find, yeah, they will find a way to do certain things. I know that our living dogs have figured out. We have an extended cab pickup truck, and they ride
Right.
in the back on a giant comforter, and
Yes.
restrained. So, but they've figured out how to open the back window.
Nice.
To come into the truck.
No,
Nice.
while they're in the back of the truck, in the back,
Oh.
they want to look out, and they figured out how to move the buttons so
Yeah.
that they
So
can
they can
lower
look
the window.
out.
I have to put the childproof locks on, and that would
Yeah.
be a sign that a dog would be able to do that has passed. Lower
Right.
your windows suddenly.
I can tell you that a cat can undo a child lock on a toilet. That's all I'm going to say. I honestly believe that I'm sent these animals to be tortured for the rest of my life because I can't outwit any of them. And my cat, the cat that we had, I've had dogs all my life. I've only had 2 other cats. We have like an L-shaped door handle.
Mhm.
So long story short, my house was haunted when I moved here. So long story short, I would come in and I would always close the door so the cat wouldn't be all over the place because he was just a kitten. And I would come home and all the doors were open and I'd be like, what the hell? What's in my house? Like,
Cat's sitting
and
there
never
going,
did I think the
Yeah.
cat until
Right.
one day I had my elderly cousin from the States staying with me and she was in the spare room and I watched we called him Popeye. He was black and white like a Holstein cow. I watched Popeye do that little wiggle before they're going to pounce on something and jump up and grab the door handle and go swinging right through like Tarzan. And I'm like, son of a... That cat can open, like, don't even bother closing the damn doors. Seriously. They are so smart. There isn't
Yeah, they're
anything
very
they can't do.
No,
I've seen him
amazing.
slide the sliding door open by hanging on it and swinging. Like, he had a thing for that.
Need child locks for the animals, I think.
I put it in the bathroom and he still broke it. I don't know if he chewed it. He broke it because they always go for the water in the
It's
potty.
true.
So
It's true. Well, which brings me to this question. Have any of your living pets picked up on the habits of past pets?
oh yeah.
Especially the naughty ones, because that's what I'm experiencing.
She's asking for a friend.
They're asking for a friend, little bugger in the other room.
So that is absolutely another way that your pets who passed communicate that they're
there
still
we
around.
go. There we go.
So people often ask me if our pets will reincarnate in this life, and in my experience, they do not. They wait for us on the other side.
Oh,
Um,
okay. That's interesting.
But what happens is when we adopt a new pet, they come down and they train the new pet. to have
That's
a
nice. That's
habit or
nice.
two that they had.
Training. That's what we
That's
call
special.
it. Okay. Nice training or the naughty training too?
It doesn't matter.
That's special.
Great.
It could be a good habit or a bad habit.
Nice.
Yeah.
And our pets do maintain their personalities on the other side. So
Right.
if they were frisky in this life, they're going to be frisky
Or
on
as
the other
Melissa
Well,
side.
like
says,
our loved
saucy.
ones, right?
Yeah.
My mother
Saucy
would always
brain.
pinch me and she pinches me now. Oh,
Well, it's funny because when my last dog died, I says, okay, send me one that needs me, like the rescue dog. Send me one that needs me. And I end up with this little long-haired, saucy little thing. And she's so naughty. She's so naughty. Oh
She
my
really
God.
is.
She's like 2.5 pounds of sheer naughtiness. And
Yeah,
it's
she
like
really
she
is.
does things that my other dog would do almost verbatim. And I just look around, I'm going, you did this to me. I asked for it though. But I mean, the habits are identical. And it's just funny because, Wayne will just say, oh, well, that's exactly what the other dog did. And I'm just like, no, I think it's your imagination. And then I just watch. I'm like, because the other one's so saucy as well. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm living it again. But this one's naughtier. So
It's not surprising that they will teach them a bad habit. I will tell you that when we adopted our most recent dog, he's 9 years old,
wow.
another victim of abuse, sadly.
Yeah.
But he has 5 distinct habits that our dog Franklin had, who passed away in 2020, and they never met.
Yeah.
5 distinct habits that none of the other dogs we've ever had have. So we know that Franklin has been guiding him and teaching him.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're all bad habits, though.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's just like, remember, I'm still here. It's like, I love it though. I do deep down. Like I make fun of it and I talk about just how naughty she is, but she makes me smile every single day, except when she tries to hump her disabled sister. That's not cool because a poor dog can't see, right?
No, she's
And she
nasty.
can't move a whole very quickly.
She's nasty.
Like,
She's so
Grace.
funny.
And her name is
She
Grace. You
barrels
gave
through
me
them.
that name. There's nothing graceful about this dog, So stop humping your sister. It's just vile, So
Yeah.
it's a lovely thing, but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
I'm not singing
on
it,
that
Wayne.
note, no, I know. We'll put this quick comment up. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Maria. Maria Spargifora says, my mom used to tell me if I ever do something she doesn't like, she'll pull my hair from the other side. Has she pulled
does.
it
That
yet,
one's for you. Okay, that's for you. Okay, all right. Oh my gosh.
That is so funny. I always say my dog is a Morkie and he's 14 years old. And I call him a grumpy old man. And I swear he has dementia and he's starting, with the blindness, but we didn't rescue him. We got him for my daughter as a pup, but I would hope that he would communicate with me because I can't even imagine my life without him. He's just the biggest personality of any dog I have ever had, and I've had dogs my entire life. So, but he does test me.
He will. He will definitely communicate. So for all the folks out there, there are a couple of things I want to throw out there. So number one, if you've recently lost a pet, know that they really try hard in the first 30 days of their passing to try and give you a sign. But grief is an emotional energy that blocks signs from spirit.
Yeah.
So you might not be able to see what they're trying to convey. Ask your pet to come into your dreams. Dreams are the easiest way for any kind of spirit to communicate with us, to let us know they're okay. So that would be the easiest way.
Aww.
The other thing too is that people will always write to me and tell me that they've struggled with making the decision to helping their pet pass. And our pets want us to know that they appreciate us having the strength and the courage and finding the lesson that they taught us, unconditional love, that enables them to help enables us to help them pass. So they're very appreciative that we have that courage. Also, if you don't think you can stay with your pet when it's their time, which I urge you to do, but if you, for some reason, if you don't think you can stay with your pet, put something that has your scent on it so that they think that you're still there.
I couldn't imagine not wanting to be with my pet in their last hour or last few moments. I know it's hard, and that's a memory that stays with you, but that's like leaving one of your loved ones at the hospital alone.
It's tough because they say in their last moments they look for you. So it's hard. I don't know if
Mhm.
Versace would be able to find me, but he'd be able to smell me because I know his vision's going because he comes up and he smells me,
Right.
you know. But he's
Right.
still playful and everything, and I hope to have him around for a bit yet. But
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that's the thing, Amelia. You hit on that. It's really it's scent. You know,
yeah,
even though our dogs might not be able to see us toward the end of their life, or hear us for that matter, they can still smell us because
Mhm.
scent is one of the last things to go. Um,
yeah.
so also too, some folks have written and said to me that that they felt guilty when their pet passed and they weren't at home. But our pets make a choice just like people do.
Mhm.
They either prefer to be surrounded by loved ones or they prefer to pass by themselves.
Mhm.
And so they don't want you to feel guilty if you're not there at home when they pass or wherever they are. They likely chose to do so. My
Mhm.
mother in 2013 waited for all of us to be out of her hospital room after days of being there. She was in a
That's
coma.
common. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Of course, my dad and my mother's favorite dog showed up in spirit. And when I
Right.
told my mom that my dad was there and he was holding her favorite dog Gigi, um, then she was ready to go. She wanted to make
Yeah.
sure. I don't think she cared if my dad was there, but she cared that the dog was there. You know.
That's so funny. We all
Well,
want the
because
fur
I think
babies.
that's a question that plagues us all the time. Will we see them? Will we? Is it this rainbow bridge real? And that's probably why when you confirmed it, she knew your dad would be there. Of course, that's the way we were brought up to believe. But we
Mhm.
never really know about our pets, right? So I could see that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and my mother used to say that her favorite child was her dog, and
I say
in
that.
front of my two brothers and I. So
yeah, my
I say
kids
that, and
say
I have
that
one
too.
child.
Yeah.
And I tell her all the
I have
time, he's my favorite.
I have adult children. They've always like the dog's been first. No, not
Yes.
really, but
Yes.
Okay, well, no. Tell me, I mean, being a scientist and
Mhm.
being a medium, it's like one end of the spectrum to the next. How do you find that balance? Because for me, even with mediumship, and I do have a very scientific mind,
Mhm.
and you tend to second guess or question everything. How do you find that balance?
Well, for me, I try to explain things in terms of energy, number one. And number
Right.
two, I'm always looking for confirmations. So if I
Yeah.
can't get those confirmations, it makes it harder for me to conclude that that's exactly what happened. Um,
Right.
so those are the ways that I do it. And I also explain, I've come to explain some of the things that happen in terms of energy that I haven't heard explained before. So for
Mm,
instance, we've talked about in the paranormal community the appearance of cold spots
mm,
whenever there's a
yes.
ghost or a spirit present.
Yes.
So what I really had to think about this. So uh, I've concluded that a, a spirit of a loved one who's visiting or an earthbound ghost will use the energy of motion of air molecules. They will absorb that energy of motion, and by doing that, they slow those molecules down. And fast moving molecules of air are warm air, and slower moving molecules of air are cooler air. So you get a cold spot, if you will,
Hmm.
wherever a spirit or ghost is trying to form.
Hmm. No, that makes sense. Just like people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right. Right. Okay. No, that's interesting. I guess essentially, whatever, I've researched for a couple of decades, so I guess you're pretty much looking at like if what works for a human spirit,
Mhm.
energy wise, would be the same for the most part for a pet.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Right. Right. Okay. Do you ever get in any interesting EVPs with pets?
Because I don't have the scientific equipment with me,
Right.
I don't. I
But even
just
when you're doing investigations, because
I just use
sometimes
my head.
oh, yeah, why do an EVP when you just got it right there ready to go?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
I don't think we've had any of our investigators have picked up any pets on EVPs.
Right.
Have either of you?
Yeah. Yeah. I've caught cats and dogs, things like that. But I mean, usually when you're at a location and you're doing some, some researching, we have spirit animals that we've had them here. We've had people basically say that they could hear them, with their natural hearing. But definitely have caught in some only cats and dogs, nothing more.
It's
So
in my head, Rob, like you.
same. Yeah. Yeah,
It's in
that's
my head.
true.
I don't use anything. I'm a medium. It just, yeah.
Right.
Janie Mashburn. Hi, Janie. Janie says, my cat Patches passed. The next morning, her mind and mine connected. I knew it was her. We were communicating our deep love and appreciation for each other. It lasted an hour. Can it
Wow.
happen again? Wow, Janie, you're very fortunate that you picked up on that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it absolutely can happen again. And it typically with pets, they typically happen on those three occasions that I mentioned: the birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays.
Mm.
Um, that's one thing that's kind of different with human spirits, is that when human spirits want to help us out or steer us away from something or lead us to something, they will come at different times during the year.
Hmm.
You may find a coin during the year, and if you look at the year, that's typically indicative of who it may be.
Hmm.
Um, so keep that in mind. And that's not to say that pets can't use coins with the help of human spirits. They
Hmm.
can.
Hmm.
Um, there are also other things that may be indicative of pet communications as well as human communications.
Hmm.
I find repeating numbers are
Hmm.
often something.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're called angel numbers. I'm
Right.
not an expert with numbers,
Oh,
but
like 1111, 333,
yeah,
that kind of thing. Oh, okay. Yeah.
exactly. And
Spiritual numbers. Yeah.
so, Michelle, one thing I've noticed is that since my dog Dolly passed, she was the Weimaraner that we adopted after Buzz passed.
Mm.
Dolly was my heart dog.
Oh.
She passed in October 2020, and she was almost 16 years old.
Mm.
We had a very intuitive thing going. And since she passed, I kid you not, almost every single day I have seen a repeating number. I only look at the
Mm.
clock when it's 111 or 444
Right.
or something like that.
Right. Have you ever
Um,
looked up the meanings of those?
Because they're all
They all
different.
have meanings. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're all different. Yeah. Mhm.
Right. Right.
Yep.
And do you find that you find connections by looking at the meanings of those numbers pertaining to her?
I have.
Oh,
Yes.
see, I think that's wonderful. I think
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Maybe that's just another way that people can start. Maybe when they say if you see numbers like that, if you stop and think about for a moment that it's something or someone from the other side trying to get your attention.
Mhm.
I think that's wonderful. I love that. I really do.
Tamara is asking, do you find you work more on an emotional energy when reading for animals?
Mm.
Oh gosh, yeah. um, so this is another reason why I do. I only do pet readings when by email. I look at a pet's picture.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I ask for their name and any questions that the pet parent may have. If
Mm.
if a pet parent knows something, they don't have to ask me. Like, you don't have to ask me what their pet's favorite toy is, because
Right.
first of all, if your pet lived more than a year, your pet is going to have more than one favorite toy,
True.
and they
Yeah.
may focus on one versus the other one.
Right.
Um, but emotionally speaking, yes, because they are very emotional. Um, I have to tell you both that when sometimes I will open the email and look at the pet picture, and I will be in tears
Oh,
with the flood of love that I get from these
Yeah.
pets. And it takes me 30 to 45 minutes to do a reading. And even before I even get to the questions.
wow.
And And usually I answer the questions in the kind of data dump that they give me in the beginning. And then I have to go to the questions and say, oh, yeah, I answered this up here. I answered that up there.
Mhm.
And I always keeps a box of tissues next to my computer because it's
Aw.
an emotional mess.
I
But
could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
they're
that's
precious.
it is, but that takes a lot to be able to do something like that, to be that connected that you can have so much emotion,
That's why
you
I don't
know?
do it over the phone, because I don't want to,
Yeah, yeah. It'd be almost like, in a way, like, are you upsetting the person? I would cry if you cried. You know,
yeah.
we'd be crying together. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that would really be hard. That would really be hard. Um, oh, okay, hold on. Let's try to get as we go along.
Hi,
Otherwise, I'll lose
Melissa.
them.
Melissa asks, what are your thoughts about the possibility heart dogs, pets, traveling through different lives with you? Life souls when you meet someone who you just know you've met before.
Melissa works with several dog rescues, and she has rescued and fostered many. She's
Aw.
very active. Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you, Melissa. So I 100%. I think we're all interconnected, and we
Mhm.
will all come back with each other in one way or the other. And I think we'll be connected in one way or the other. I don't know how. Nobody knows how, really.
Mhm.
But I look at love like a giant spiritual spider web,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that we are all connected. Um, and and as such, we will all come back interconnected again.
Right. There you go. Because she's, again, fostering these animals, as you know, rescuing them. And sometimes you don't have them for very long.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Especially when you're rescuing older dogs, you know that you're just making them comfortable for a little while. And Melissa's been in that position many
That's
times.
that's
And
tough. You have to be a
yeah,
strong,
kudos
special
to
kind of
you.
person to do that, Melissa. Thank you
Yeah,
for being
kudos
there.
to do that.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Um, so basically, we talk about pets who reincarnate. I mean, this I thought would be a good segue in. Do you, and I know this is something a lot of people ask. I asked it as well when this little being came into my life, and I said, well, send me one. And if it wasn't for the fact that I've heard her barking separately aside from this one, I would
Mhm.
have thought for sure that they would reincarnate back into one of your pets. And I've heard people believe that this has happened to them. Do you believe that can happen, or do you think they're just going to wait out the cycle? Like, I know you touched on it a little bit, but can you elaborate a bit more on it?
Yeah, well, it's just been my experience that they wait,
Okay.
that they don't come back so fast.
Hmm.
And my hope is actually that they're all waiting for me there, um, because that's the only reason I want to go.
Just to see the fur pets. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a really tough one. It's hard to leave them behind.
Well,
Um, yeah. I don't know. For me, I always have designated loved ones.
mhm.
Okay, this is a dog that's coming. You be a good match.
Yeah,
Take care of
take
the
care
dog.
of them.
I know. And it was always my grandfather, and I'm sure he was just like, "Come on, you've given me like all my parrots, everything. Just go." People don't realize how affectionate parrots are. They're like very cuddly. They're very charismatic. You look at a bird, you
Mm.
don't think that they're very charismatic. And I've had them come through readings that have nothing to do with me, but they reach out. They're just larger than life. So your books, I'd like to touch on your books. When people are grieving for their fur babies, your books have been instrumental to some people in helping them through the grieving process. Can you talk about that?
Sure, thank you. So the reason I wrote these books, especially the Pets in the Afterlife series, is to help bring people understanding that their pets are still very much alive on the other side, and they're all
Mhm.
going to be waiting for us.
Right.
Also, to give everybody signs about what to look for.
Mhm.
Um, in my two most recent Pets in the Afterlife books, I have four in the series now.
Wow.
Um, Pets in the Afterlife 3 is about messages from spirit dogs, and 4 is about spirit cats. 1 and 2 is about all domesticated pets. But 3 and 4 have special chapters by one is a medical psychologist that deals with how to cope with grief and loss and things you can do.
Wow.
And 4 is Spirit Cats, which has a chapter about coping with grief and loss from a friend of mine who is a counselor and a social worker, a grief counselor, social worker. I also explain in a chapter of my own all the different ways that we have used to help get over our own grief. I do find that reaching out to friends, instead of isolating yourself, reach out to friends and let them know what happened and how you just need to hear some kind of just some kind of support, emotional support. You can do things to remember your pet. You can put together a little memory book or a rock garden or buy some flowers or something like that, just to keep their memory alive. Donate to a rescue or ask your friends to donate to a rescue in their memory. So those are just some of the things that I point out.
So what about, and I mean, I always just hate thinking that this is with any living being, especially animals, because of their innocence and the amount of love that they have. Why do you think a pet or an animal would be earthbound? And how would you deal with something like that? Like me as a fur parent would be really heartbroken. It's like having a child being left behind,
Yeah, absolutely. And I have given some thought to that, and I've run into 2 earthbound cats and 1 earthbound dog over the 12 years I've been doing this.
Wow. So that's pretty good odds.
That is good odds.
Yes.
And what I've learned from communicating with them is that they both loved their life in their particular dwelling so much that they stayed until their pet parent passed. But when their pet parent passed, they didn't go with them. They continued to stay. And to me, that's unusual.
Yes.
But it does happen. I ran into a dog when I visited a museum in England called Sir John Soane's Museum. He's a British architect.
Right.
And his home was turned into a museum because he collected architectural things around the world. And I remember walking into that museum and I saw a little black and tan dog running around. And I looked at my partner and I said, "What do you think a dog's doing in here?" And he said, "There's no dog here."
Yeah.
So as it turned out, I asked one of the docents that was running the museum, and she said, "Oh yes, that's Fanny. That's Mrs. Soane's dog, her favorite dog, and you can see a painting of Fanny with Mrs. Soane in this particular room of the museum." And sure enough, it was there. And there was a little dog that I saw running around the museum. And she said, "Do you sense any humans here?" And I said, "No, only a dog." And she said, "Well, that's exactly what the experiences of the people who work here have been. Only a dog has been here."
Crazy.
That's sweet, though.
So the dog just waited behind and missed the boat with with moving with her owner.
But she does. So her little dog Fanny greets everybody that comes to the door with excitement, enthusiasm.
Come see my picture. Awesome. Come see my picture.
Yeah, that's just awesome.
That is sweet.
What about wild animals? Do you connect a lot or at all with wild animals per se?
So I can't connect with wild animals because they don't relate to us.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I had to think about it because they don't know our habits, they don't know our language, they don't know the way we live. So there's nothing that we have in common. Of course, zoo animals certainly interact with humans,
right? But in the wild, not so much.
Yeah, but in the wild, no.
Wow. Wow.
Have you ever received like has anyone ever asked who came to get my baby, like my fur baby, my puppy, my cat? How did they cross? What was the experience like for them?
Yeah, so many of the pets that pass, when I'm doing readings, they will describe somebody on the other side. They will often give me names. Sometimes they'll show me what the people do for, or what they did rather, for a profession or for work, or what they were wearing. They will describe them to a T. I do remember one particular dog describing the grandfather of this woman, turned out to be the grandfather of this woman. And the dog said that this gentleman he had whitish hair, he wore glasses, dark rimmed glasses, and he only wore black and red checkered shirts. He showed me different images of this gentleman, and he was all in the same shirt. And I just thought, this is weird. So I told the woman, and she said, "Oh yeah, my grandfather only wore black and red checkered shirts. That was all he had in his
Oh,
closet."
that's good to know. It's good to hear. Thank you. No, because you worry, right? It's
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Let's talk about the science of all of this. You discuss science about what's the science that you discuss about pet spirits, I guess, to help us, understand
Mhm.
how to communicate, how they communicate with the living. Is there a science? Most
Well,
people would think no.
yeah, I think there's a science to everything, really. So, um,
Okay. Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, frequency and vibration alone can be,
sure.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about the physical and the emotional energy,
Right.
the science of physical and emotional energy, but there's also the science of learning and communication. So that's another thing that I touch base in my books about. Um, Pets learn on various levels.
Mm.
I often cite Dr. Stanley Coren. Stanley Coren studied dogs. He had dogs of his own. Um, he studied dogs for decades, and he wrote a couple of very good books called The Intelligence of Dogs and How Dogs Think.
Hmm.
And what he had concluded is that he used dogs as a baseline because he had dogs, but it also applies to some other domesticated animals like cats.
Mhm.
Dogs have the intelligence of a 3 to 5 year old child.
Hmm.
And when you think about it, really, we raise them like children.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
dogs have instinctual learning. They have behavioral learning. They learn on schedules. They learn routines. They learn language. They know words. Um, they know emotions, of course, because they all have their own emotions. They all have their own personalities. They learn to play well with others,
Or not.
or not, right?
Like mine.
They like who they like.
Mhm.
So I always and I say this all the time whenever I'm talking about this, but it is true that we bring up our pets like we bring up human children. We take them to
Yes.
school. We take them to the vet when they're sick. We teach them to go to the bathroom. We teach them to play well with others. And I always love to say that the only difference is that they don't grow up and marry someone you don't like and move away.
Right.
Right?
It's true. They actually listen. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So learned behavior as well. So their sauciness probably is a product of the environment that we've created for them.
yeah.
I explain a
Oh my
lot in my
God.
house. I always
Yeah.
say I'm fortunate that he lets me live here. Um,
Right.
what do you think about this scientifically? All these videos now of these dogs pushing buttons to speak and form sentences. Yeah, you haven't seen that, Michelle? Some things are nasty what they're saying because the owners are
I'm
teaching them
still
to say
trying to
something.
deal with the saucy dog. So I
Yeah,
don't think
no,
get
they
to that
have these
degree.
buttons and you can buy them online, and you can teach them how, like, when to respond with them, and it's your voice saying
Mm.
whatever it is. You're programming it in there. Have you seen that at all, Rob? No?
I'm not.
Okay, I spend way too much time on TikTok.
I would be more
Well,
interested to get Rob's opinion and tapping into the dog that has to push those buttons. I
Oh,
would be curious to see if the dog is thinking, "What the hell am I
sometimes
doing?" Or
they
this
have
is
them
this a
already.
school or
Oh, I know, but they have them already programmed. Like one will press outside now, or hungry or snack, and they'll keep pressing
right.
it, keep pressing it.
Well,
But it's
Melissa makes a good
amazing
point with
how
that.
they respond. Like I'm wondering who's training them, and
Mhm,
they're just everyday people at home, and they're buying these buttons online at a store we're all familiar with,
mhm,
and I'm just in shock at how well they're communicating with them, because
mhm.
that's the only thing missing from them are words, really.
dogs
You
have a
know?
really good memory. So I do know that border collies have been known to memorize up to 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Wow.
I also know
Wow.
that one thing I've learned is that dogs can see yellow and blue, and every other color appears in
Mhm,
shades of gray. So, and
mhm.
I've also noticed that with my own dogs, because the toys that they always go for are the yellow ones.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. My
that's really
dog's not.
interesting.
He prefers pink. I don't know why. Pink balls, pink any stuffies. That's what he loved. Those are his favorite. Pink.
Mhm,
Interesting.
Strange, right? Yeah, I know.
mhm. Have you ever
Um,
do you guys ever remember the parrot, the African gray parrot named Alex? And he was a university bird. They taught him, they had doctors working with him, psychologists. They trained him to say over 400 different words.
Mhm.
He would sing songs and all kinds of things like that.
Wow.
After he passed away, I was contacted by one of his caretakers at the university. And she goes, I wanted to share a story with you because I donated money. They were trying to buy another parrot at the university. And she goes, I wanted to share a story with you, and I hope you'll be able to share it with others. And this is probably the perfect show for it. She said, I own 3 African Greys myself. She goes, they have never been in contact with Alex. He was the world's most best talking African Grey, and he could do puzzles and all kinds of things. She goes, within the week after he passed away, she goes, 2 out of my 3 birds were singing one of the songs that was only taught to Alex in the university.
aw, I
She goes,
love
I
that.
just really wanted to share that with you. I was just like,
Wow.
Oh, I love that.
but it goes to show like there's this connection with this caregiver, and that that this bird obviously made his way somehow to the home and was teaching these other birds. She goes, I had never taught, what we taught at the university was for Alex only. We never taught it to the birds here. We had to keep that very separate for research purposes.
Hmm.
So I thought that would be kind of fun to share. So
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, so perhaps he taught them
yeah,
from the
it's the
other side.
it's the only explanation that I could come up with. And she was just mind blown. She goes, it was literally within a week they were starting to sing parts of this song. And she says, as time went on, like they just knew the song. And the song was only taught, among with other songs, to this one specific bird.
That's
Wow,
amazing.
that is
Yeah.
incredible.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that if that's not an afterlife story
Yeah.
Wow.
in one form or another, and that's a bird. It's not a typical, like we always think cats and dogs, but I don't think many of us really think of the scope beyond that with these other little sentient beings, I want to put up this
Oh,
comment because I can
sure.
relate. Our dog came from a Chinese family and we had a big language barrier.
Yeah. Tamara asks, do dogs learn different languages? My adopted dog only understood Mandarin and learned English after several months.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I will hear words in languages that I don't know what they are,
Hmm.
Hmm.
Oh,
My dog's
and I can't
bilingual.
identify them. Um,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
so what? One example is actually a cat I did a reading for. Um, a woman. This is in my upcoming book, Pets in the Afterlife 4, about messages from spirit cats. And um, there was a woman who had a cat, and she just said, whatever my cat wants to say. And so the cat kept telling me the word mala, M-A-L-A. And I don't know what that means. I know mal in Spanish means bad, but I don't know
In
what
Italian
M-A-L-A.
as well, unwell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mala means sick in Italian.
Okay.
Yeah, male. Yeah.
My my mother would be so proud of you because she was Italian.
Oh,
And
thanks. Well, my mother shoved me in Italian school for 10 years. So if I don't know that, I'm in trouble. And
I
it
never
was
went to
my first language.
Oh, I never went to school for Italian, but when you grow up with an
No.
Italian mother, you only learn the bad words.
Yes, my mother was a sailor. Your mom too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Leave
It's
that
okay.
right
I
there.
thought it was really funny.
Yeah. So
So
you ran into an issue then with the language barrier, obviously.
So backtracking to the cat.
Yeah.
So the cat kept saying the word mala, and I had no idea what that meant. So of course, I put it in the email, and I said, the cat is specifically saying this word mala, and the cat's mom wrote me back and said that every morning she practices a meditation called mala, only in the privacy of her own room, and the only one that would ever know that is her and the cat.
Aw, I love
Wow.
moments like that. Those are precious.
I was blown away by
Precious.
that.
Yeah, you're thinking, do I tell her? Were you thinking like, do I tell her this? This doesn't sound right.
No,
Yeah,
but it
I
goes
was
to show
thinking
you everything's important.
she was probably thinking I'm crazy, but nope.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's a great validation. That's a great validation. Do you ever get like from any of the pets that you've spoken with, the cats, dogs, like messages they really needed to get across, like maybe like warnings, or maybe I can't move on until you know this, that sort of thing?
Yeah, one of the most I think emotional readings I've ever done was for a little cocker spaniel
Oh,
puppy, and his mom, Elizabeth. I think this is in my Pets in the Afterlife 2 book. This reading was devastating to me, but this woman, Elizabeth, wrote me, and she said that she had a cocker spaniel puppy, and she went out with her friend, and her husband was watching the dog, and she got a call from her husband at about 8 o'clock or 8:30 at night to come home because the dog was looking lethargic suddenly, and he didn't understand because he really didn't let the dog out of his sight. So she came home, and she called the emergency vet, and they said, you can either bring the dog in right now. Of course, it was on a weekend. Everything happens on a weekend.
always. You can't get to a vet. Yeah.
Or you can watch the dog for an hour or two and make sure the dog's comfortable, and then make a decision. So she opted to watch the dog. Well, she checked back with the dog in an hour, and the dog had passed away.
Oh my.
She was devastated, and
Oh
she
my goodness.
did not know what happened. So she
Wow.
reached out to me.
Oh.
The dog came through to me and showed me that he liked to go outside, and he liked to nibble on plants. And and I said it was something toxic that he ingested that killed him. And I sent her a list of SPCA, most toxic plants, and she wrote me back, and she said, yeah, I have several of those in my backyard, and he did like eating plants. And I said, it's not your husband's fault at all. The dog takes full responsibility that this is what he liked to do. There was no way that you couldn't have known that these were out there. But she was devastated, and
of course.
So that story, she allowed me to share his story in the book. I changed the names, but as a warning to pet parents that there are common houseplants, plants that are toxic and deadly to dogs and cats that we
Yeah, especially coming into the season, like mistletoe, ivy, poinsettia. There's a few different ones that you just don't think about, And
I think people will remember them at Christmas, but not during the year when they're gifted a plant. They don't think like
Mm.
I have very, very, very few plants in my house, and only because they were given to me. And I looked up every single one of them because my biggest fear is a leaf dropping. It doesn't matter how high you have it up. If a
Mm.
leaf drops because it's dried up and dead, it's on the floor. It's still toxic.
It's still toxic, yeah.
So you have to know, and I think that if you want to have plants in your home, I suggest you go to a nursery and ask them. A lot of the bigger nurseries will have a section that is pet friendly,
Hmm.
and it will read pet friendly on it, and you can talk to them and they'll help you. I know I've done that.
Hmm.
So that's a big
Yeah.
fear. I wonder if that's ever happened in a past life to one of my animals, because I've always had that fear inside of me.
Hmm.
That and choking on the cords for the blinds.
Or collars.
Yeah, my dog doesn't wear a collar for a
Look,
specific
a lot
reason.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I guess that would be so basically bringing peace to their owners. That's a big one. Do you ever get anything where they're trying to warn their owners?
Just the only kind of warning that they give me is not to adopt a dog or a cat of a certain sex, because they want to be the only dog or cat
Oh
that's
my
male or female.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Right to
That's
the
a
end,
little
eh?
ego there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine an animal with an ego.
Wayne
Oh,
brings
yeah.
up a good point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Wayne brought up a good point. If you have Christmas trees, the preservative in the water is deadly to pets.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
For real
I have
trees.
an artificial tree for it. See, there's so many
Yeah.
reasons.
And then
Not
this
just
is the big one
environment.
now because these are very popular. Essential oils.
Essential oils, if you have a diffuser and you have a cat, and not only if you have a cat or dog, if you have a baby, you should not be using essential oils. It coats and clogs the lungs. Those little microscopic little bubbles in the air that you're breathing in because you think this smells so good
Oh my
is
gosh.
really toxic.
A lot of
There's
people don't know that.
No, there is a list. You can ask your veterinarian for it, and I'm sure you can go online. I would ask the vet because you never know who puts what online. And my veterinarian has it on her website, a list of essential oils that are toxic to pets.
Even candles. Try to find pet-free candles. I've heard that as well. So while we're being all informative on the whole pet front, buy pet-free candles, non-scented, and it is time to do our station and sponsor.
It's time for me to work.
I know, we're just having too much fun.
It's time to work. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 and 107.7 FM. Joining us tonight is special guest Rob Gutro, and we are discussing pets and the afterlife. If you missed it, no worries. You can stream or listen to our archives on any platform that you normally use. We want to give a big thank you and a shout out to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for fully sponsoring our show from day one. We love you and we thank you so much. And thank you for your continued support. And a huge, huge thank you for our intro and outro to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, who's an award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, and find him on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're on my Instagram, when I post the show promos, you can click on the little sound button and you'll hear different clips, because I do attach different clips of his music as well to that. So if you are on Facebook, Instagram, or on YouTube, make sure to give us a like and subscribe.
Exactly. That right there. So, and of course, for Rob's websites, we have them both scrolling across here, and they are also in the show description, along with a list of all your books, all your social media links. So there'll be a lot of ways for people to reach out to you and interact with you. So if somebody wants to do a pet reading, you obviously have your website specifically for pet spirits, or is this for your books, or maybe you can guide us through there? 'Tis the season.
So all of my books are actually available on Amazon. I don't sell them through my website.
Okay, good.
I'm a
Okay.
self-published guy. So
Right.
Which you have right behind you. If
That's
anyone's
right.
watching, you can see it. RobGutro.com.
That's right.
yeah, because my name is kind of massacred. So it's weird.
Did I massacre it this time?
No.
No.
People like to put a W on my name and there's no W, or they like to put an H in my name and there's no H.
Oh, because
good.
row. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So that makes it easier. But yeah, they're all on Amazon, and because I'm self-published, I I want people to read them and get comfort, especially with the pets.
Right.
So I can price them myself. So I price them under $10
Oh,
Aw.
on paperback. I'm a meteorologist during the week, so that's how
love
I make
that.
my living. But
I
I
love
do
that.
this because I'm driven by Buzz, my little guy over here,
Yeah.
who has really opened the door for me to help people and comfort them. So, but I also communicate with humans. So
Mm-hmm.
six of the other books are about my interactions with earthbound ghosts who are people or spirits who have
And we're going to
crossed
bring you
over.
back on for that too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we will. We will.
All kinds of things.
I love that.
Yeah. I have to ask, when you are like, have you ever come across doing a reading for pets who maybe don't have much time, and where you help the family to prepare them for that passing, or do you basically just try to avoid that altogether? Because if I had a pet that was near passing, I would want someone like you to say, I want to know how to make this transition easier for my pet.
So I can only communicate with pets that have already passed.
Okay, interesting.
So I always send people to an animal communicator so that they
Okay.
know, because animal communicators have that ability to talk with pets that are currently alive.
That's actually really interesting. Can you explain why? Because I would never have thought that there was a difference.
Sure. So my gift, there's so many different aspects to these gifts that I have learned. So I can only communicate with people and pets that have passed away.
Okay.
Animal communicators can understand language, body language, and facial expressions and so forth of living animals, so that they can communicate with a living animal and they can tune into their energy. I've also found that animal communicators are like Reiki masters as well, because they're
Interesting.
reading energy.
Okay.
I don't have that gift. My gift is
Right.
really narrow.
Well, no, I think it's an
I don't think
amazing
it's
gift.
narrow. I think it's
That's an amazing gift.
incredible.
Don't sell that short. No.
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 Well, people ask me, thank you. So people ask me too about being psychics, and sometimes people will call me a pet psychic, and I'm not a psychic either, because what I've learned is that psychics can tune into energies of the past, the present, and the future. So they can tell you what you did in your past, and they can tell you what you're going through right now and direct you to what you should do in the future. I don't have that gift either.
Right.
Again, I can only communicate with the people and pets on the other side.
That's
But
a mediumship gift.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so psychics can communicate with energy, and I think tarot readers are psychic. Really.
Some, absolutely. Some just
Yeah.
master the art of reading cards or runes or talismans, and I think it's great. I think any kind of ability that you have that can be helpful in helping people who passed on, or people who are nearing that. I work with many people who are close to passing, and just by communicating with those on the other side, waiting for them. So I guess that brings me back to my question: have you had pets, who let's say, let's take it a different step. Pets who basically are waiting for their loved ones to transition, and maybe the pet knows it and are saying to you, can you let them know I'm going to be there, or that sort of thing? Because that would give me a heck of a lot of peace, knowing my little chi-chis were going to be there waiting for me.
Well, they always do tell me that they will be there waiting.
Right.
And sometimes they will tell me which pet on the other side will come to greet someone who is about to pass.
Right.
Um, I've done readings for people whose dog or cat recently passed,
Mhm.
and they will tell me whichever dog or cat had passed before was the one that stepped forward. And usually I find too that the ones that we talked about how personalities are
Yeah.
maintained on the other side. So the
Yes.
pet that is more um, assertive or more social will
Mhm.
be the first one to step forward, while the other ones will be back in the shadow.
That's interesting. Would that work similar to like the pack mentality, even? You know how you have the matriarch or patriarch when you have more than one pet and one passes, and then the
Mhm.
next one would step up. Does it work like that also with them while they're all together on the other side?
It seems to be, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there'd be some trouble in the pack, I'd say, with
Uh-oh.
the last little one that went in there. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a rut row.
I know. I know, I know. No, that's actually really interesting to know. It just sort of gives me a little bit of an idea because as a foster mom or rescue mom, like you see a lot of them come and go,
Mhm.
and just it's good to know that they're going to be there waiting. But I know people who have lost pets, and I'm thinking might be a very nice Christmas gift, which is why I'm saying, like, what is the process to communicate with you to get a reading from you, especially if it's being gifted? Because I don't want to just
Um,
come out and say, hey, this is what I'm getting you.
well, and so there's a pro and a con here. So
Okay.
usually because I I do my readings by email, and they're usually the instructions on the website. Usually people just what people will do is they will send me. I ask for a small amount of money
Yeah,
just to cover my time
of
on
course.
PayPal, and
Of
then I
course.
send them a confirmation of what weekend they will get it because I do them on weekends. But
Okay.
Mhm.
Amelia and Michelle, I am booked out until October 2023.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
Good for
So
you.
that is
yeah,
See, that's a
fantastic.
huge testimony to your credibility and
It
how
is.
incredible you are. You make it so small, but you're giving so much peace to so many
It's true.
people.
I need to
Seriously, I
retire.
admire that. Pardon?
I
You
need to
need to.
retire. I need to
You
do this
will.
full time.
And you probably would be doing it full time. But I agree
Yeah.
with Amelia. That speaks volume about your integrity and your credibility, with respects to what you do.
Well, I'm humbled and I'm flattered, really. And for people who want to know how it works, that's why I wrote Pets in the Afterlife, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you want to see what a reading looks like,
Mhm.
those will give you, each chapter were from many of the chapters were from readings that I did that pet parents graciously allowed me to
Aw.
put in print so that other pet parents can understand different ways that their pets communicate.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a good way to understand a reading. I mean, I do get some emails from people who say they're totally skeptic. They're skeptics,
Well,
and
sure. But that's
um,
with everything.
yeah, and I mean it's healthy to be a skeptic, but there sometimes I would caution people to say if you are that skeptical, then don't
Mhm.
ask for a reading because you've
Right.
already decided that it's not going to be what you want.
You're pretty much just closing the door already before you even really open it. And that's
Yeah,
kind of sad. You just have to remind them, I'm a scientist.
right.
That's a
Follow my
big one
lead.
on your side, just saying.
That's true. No, no.
And I'll,
It's
I'll tell you that. I'll tell you a little story that a gentleman sent a couple of 3 years ago. A gentleman sent me an email, asked me for a
mm,
reading.
mhm.
And by the way, somebody said to me, "Why do you charge a small fee?"
Why not?
Um, and
With your
I
time.
will tell you that for a decade, for 10 years, I charged absolutely nothing, and I would spend
Mhm,
5 to 10 hours a weekend doing free readings
mhm.
while my other half was yelling at me to come downstairs.
Right? It's
um,
your life, and people don't realize self-published authors, that comes out of your own pocket.
it does.
So it's
Um,
a good contribution.
but but I try to make everything affordable because I,
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't want to pay a lot of money either.
Mhm,
So, um,
mhm.
but I was going to tell you a story of
Yes.
a gentleman that had emailed me. He lost a black lab, and
Mm.
I think this is my Pets in the Afterlife 3 book. And he sent me a note and he said, I just have a couple of questions, ask me a couple of general questions. And at the end of the reading, one of the things that the dog said to me was the number 512. And he said, this number is special. This number is specific to me or my dad. And the gentleman wrote me back and he said, I have no idea what that is. And I said, well, keep it in mind. Over time, it may come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 8 months later, he wrote me back.
Mhm.
8 months later.
Wow.
And I'm glad he did. And he said, you may not remember me. This is my first name. You read a black lab. This is my dog's name. And you said the number 512. And he said, I finally figured out what it was. And he said, I confess that I am a doctor. And he said, I was seeing a patient in my office just this week. And my patient was suffering from a collapsed lung. And I wrote the number 512. That's the medical code. And he said, then I realized that is what took the life of my dog.
Oh my word.
So the dog was
Wow.
communicating in medical terms.
his language.
Holy cow.
His dad
was-
knew the number.
Yeah, and he was thinking like everybody who sits for a reading, they're looking for date of birth, they're looking for anniversaries. They're not thinking, they're just thinking personally. That's why it's
Well, but-
important to be open-minded when you're receiving that
But
information.
that's the way he should have, and it took him 8 months
Well,
to make the connection. Like the
Mhm.
dog gave the one thing that should have made
but
that
he didn't
connection
look for
easy.
that. He was looking for a favorite toy. He was looking for something
Well,
simple.
how do you figure your dog's going to know medical term?
He wasn't thinking 512 as a medical term. It's like, do I look for an address? I get this all the time with readings. Do I look for an address? Is it an anniversary? Is someone's death date? Is it like, what is it? They don't think of anything else. And then it comes up.
That is fantastic.
Yeah,
Actually,
that's really incredible.
yeah, that's a really good validation for you as well, Rob. Wow.
Well, I was shocked.
Yeah, because how would you know
Me
that,
too.
right?
I know. Yeah, you should be. Wow, that's crazy.
That's
So,
impressive.
would you say that's the most shocking thing you have, or what's the most shocking reading that you've done? The most outrageous?
Oh my goodness. Well, another
Let's just-
woman, a woman named Ginny wrote me and asked me about how the reasons in which 4 of her dogs died.
Okay.
And every single one of them came through to me at the same time. And they identified specific ways that they passed away. And she was able to confirm and understand how they died.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
That's
From
good
snake
validation.
bites to other things.
Mhm.
You know, and I don't. Again,
Yeah.
when I get these emails, I get a first name, sometimes a last name.
Mhm.
I don't know where in the world these people live.
Mhm.
I don't know what their house looks like. I don't know anything about them. All I know
Mhm.
is here's a picture of my cat or my dog. Here's their first name. Here's my questions.
Mhm.
And somebody said to me, how do I know that you don't spend hours researching this person online?
Who
And I'm
has
like,
that kind of time?
I have a career. You know,
Yes.
I'm
I
not.
have a life. Yeah.
Can you imagine if you did that? You'd charge by the hour. If I had
Well, I
to
would have
spend hours researching somebody,
I
that's
would have to
crazy.
charge hundreds of dollars and
Yes,
hire
for
consultants.
that time.
To do
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, that's insane.
And how would you get that information that you
I
know
don't know.
anyways? Like how?
Somebody accused me of looking up their social media platform, and they were in another country, and I'm like, I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
think people, you're going to have your skeptics and you're going to have your
Yeah.
naysayers, and sometimes no matter what you find and how accurate it is, and they just don't want to believe it.
It's it's okay. I don't take offense.
It is. No, that's the paranormal and average,
It's normal. Yeah.
But I do have to tell you that I have given readings all over the world. Japan, South Korea, Colombia, England,
Mhm.
Poland,
Mhm.
Canada, everywhere and anywhere. And
Mhm.
and the thing is that I never know where these people are from.
Right.
But the pet will describe their surroundings to me, and I'm like, that's weird. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and then it turns out they're in Turkey, for instance, and I'm
Right.
like, oh my gosh. And the pet, the person would write back and say, um, oh, that makes sense because I live in this country and this is what we have in the house. And I'm like, okay.
That is
I've
so
never been to your country.
cool.
That's excellent.
Do you think the
Yeah.
pet is that the pet's way of letting you know that this is where I'm from? Because I
Yeah.
was going to say, how do you like? Do they do a language barrier? Do they speak to you in that language or in their language? So how do you like? What do you go Google Translate or how do you really get that? And I know it sounds funny, but you
Yeah.
having to communicate in a different language, how do you decipher the pet and then decipher it to the people?
Well, they mostly show me images,
Okay,
so
okay.
that I don't
That
have
would
to
make
worry about
sense.
languages.
Right.
It's mostly been with people that have come through speaking different languages. Whenever they will show me
Okay.
like a person on the other side that's come to greet them, and the
Mhm.
person will be speaking a different language,
Right,
and
okay.
I don't understand what it is.
Mhm.
Um, that I have to convey that.
Right, right. Images,
Yeah.
no, that makes a lot of sense. That's the easiest. I love that. I just totally love that. That's just fantastic.
So I have to say that I never would have imagined that I would have this kind of a gift. And I wasn't sure what to do with it when I was a kid, so I buried it, and until
Right.
I was like 40, until Buzz passed.
Mhm.
And my mother had it, but she was afraid of it. Um,
Right.
but when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a superhero, so I look at this as a superpower.
Oh, absolutely. It
It is.
is. It is. And the fact that it's one of your pets that really help push you to do it, to help pets and their families. I think that's spectacular. That's so humble.
I would do anything for a pet. I really
Mm.
would.
Same, same. I know. But you're very humble. And I thank you for what you do. I think that is
Oh,
just
well,
amazing.
thank you. Well, thank you both too for what you
Oh,
do,
thank
because
you.
Oh,
obviously you're amazing pet parents, because we've all been choked up tonight.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh my
true.
God. Fur
It's
babies.
true.
Yeah.
I know, Rachel, you gotta let your guests talk. I don't like rude people, so we're gonna remove you. Could have said that nicer, but yes, we're all emotional, and it's easy to get lost in it, I think, because people get passionate about their pets. My daughter works at a veterinary clinic, and she has literally been accosted verbally by pet owners, who just figure that they should be prioritized more than, somebody's coming in with an emergency. She says, I've seen horrific things. I've seen animals die on the way. I've seen so many things. But she goes, but she always says, but I understand. I am a pet owner also. I work with rescues, and it's a very passionate thing. Like it makes people crazy. And I could see it,
Yeah, you can
especially
get
when you
heated.
see them passing and when you're dealing with rescues and you see horrific stories coming with these animals,
I'm
right?
glad you brought that up, Michelle, because I do get people that email me a lot and say, well, this is an emergency. And it's hard for me to say, well, everybody's pet is an emergency to
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
it's hard for me to say to people, well, it's okay for you to jump a year ahead of everybody else, because
No,
it's not fair.
no, it's not fair. It's not fair. Everybody wants that message. Some people, desperate people, I think, do pretty desperate things. They take some desperate measures. And I just feel like we live in a time where right now people are very easily agitated.
Hmm.
And I find that people just really need to be kinder to one another.
I agree.
And
I wish I could help everybody immediately, but I'm only
yeah,
one guy, and
yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
have the resources. I don't have the
But
time.
you have a life as well.
It's
It happens.
yeah, and
I
you're
I
you're also
understand
you're
that.
also a pet parent of 3 dogs.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And I
That's a
work
lot.
rescue, and I'm on a paranormal group, and I do
Yeah.
all that stuff in my spare time. But again, that's why I wrote the books. That if somebody wants immediate comfort, learn how your pets are trying to communicate with you,
Yep.
and that way you don't need a medium. You can find out
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
Um, you can be a medium rare.
That's a dad joke
And
if I
on
ever heard
that
one.
note,
It's cute, very cute
Okay, I'm
though.
old.
I'll
no,
take it.
I
No, you're
love
not.
I am.
I'll take it.
it. I love it, though. I love it. Okay, well, as we're nearing the top of the hour, promote yourself, get your websites out, and if you have another book coming out, promote it. Just promote.
Oh, you're so kind. So I have 3 series of books: Pets in the Afterlife,
Right.
1, 2, 3, and 4. I have another series called Ghosts on a Medium's Vacation, which is about ghosts that I met when I went on vacation
I
because
love that
they
title.
don't stop talking to me. And the other one is about spirits and ghosts, earthbound and ones who have crossed over. Um, so all of them are on Amazon. All of them are under $10 a piece in paperback, and a lot less on ebook. Um, Pets in the Afterlife 4 comes out January 10th. It's on pre-order right now for Kindle. It's Pets in the Afterlife 4 Messages from Spirit Cats.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
Yep, it follows up the spirit dogs, and I'm also humbled to say that the dogs, Pets in the Afterlife 3, with my dogs Dolly and Franklin, who passed in 2020, on the cover, and have their own chapters of how they conveyed signs. That won an international book award for 2021 and 2022 as one of
Kudos.
the best pet grief books.
Oh,
And I'm like,
congratulations.
Congratulations.
how did this happen? I'm just I'm humbled
Wasn't
that
Dolly? I don't know.
There's a
You get
there's a
dogs.
lot of pet parents, and
Mhm.
there's very little for them to find and read about how to grieve.
I think
It's
so too.
difficult.
Mhm.
Not everybody understands that a fur baby is like a baby to you. They don't
Mhm.
understand it with me because I have a daughter. I'm like, but this is the son I never had. I don't know how to tell you that. I've
Mhm.
always loved animals, though. I think people who get it have always had them or loved
Mhm.
them from little.
absolutely.
But I
You
also
know.
believe it's your path, and I believe that, the way will be paved for you to get your message out. And we're so happy that you came on and, joined us, and spoke about all of this. We thank you so much for that. And we're happy to offer this platform. And of course, being, like I said, rescue advocates, especially, was a really nice surprise that you are, of like mind and a supporter in that way as well. So I
Thank you.
have sent you 2 emails, and they show sent, but yet when I go in my stream, I'm not seeing them. So if you have not received them, please check. If you have not received them, I'm just going to start a fresh email, a fresh
Okay.
stream, and I'm going to, because I made mention that, yes, I wanted to book you further to come on the show with us with some of your other books, and we had talked about that briefly with dates, and I threw dates at you and I never heard
Oh,
back. Yeah, so just have a look, because if you didn't get it, I want to make sure that I send them back out to you, because we would love to have you on again.
well, thank you both. You have just made my week.
Oh,
Aw, thank you.
thank you.
My day. It's been a
Thank
rough
you.
week. And buon Natale.
That's Italian. Yeah, yes.
Yes. Merry
Anyway,
Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas
Hope
to
you have
you
a
as
wonderful
well.
weekend.
Okay, thank you so much, Rob. I will be in touch with you very shortly.
Okay, thank you and good night.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Have a good night. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
What an honor. Thank you.
Good night. Wow, just that was fun. And yes, we do get a little bit, emotional when we speak about these things, and we do try to have a lot of fun with our guests. It's not traditional. For those who aren't used to us, it's not traditional answer a question and just, we are complimented on our style of making our guests feel comfortable and sharing of information. So you can always say something in a nice way, and it'll be taken as constructive. But when you're not very nice, you're going to get booted. Sorry, that's just the way it's going to be. So, with that being said, we have come to the end of another fantastic segment of the Outer Realm, and huge thank you to Rob Gutro, said that right, and we will be bringing him back on to cover some of his other books. I just I think it's just so kind of him to price his books so they are reasonable for people to be able to afford them, especially the pets, the pet books, because
Wow.
I really feel that if people know that, if they're grieving, if these books can help them, I think it's wonderful. I really do. And I'm grateful that he's booked that far in advance. It just speaks a lot about his credibility and his integrity, obviously. So big thank you to him. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring the show. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it so much. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker. We appreciate you so much also. If you want to email us, you guys know how to go to the Outer Realm page. Probably quickest way, click on that email button or message us at the Outer Realm contact@gmail.com. Next week, I know it's what y'all been waiting for. Next week, okay, Wednesday, we welcome the return of Mark Ollie. And he's going to be talking about mysteries of the Bible, Da Vinci. There's a lot of connections in there. So he's going to be piecing some things together. That will be next Wednesday. Brace yourself for Thursday night. I know you guys ask all the time. We're going to try to be giving you a bit more of just Amelia and I. So we're going to be having a roundtable discussion as we address Christmas traditions and folklore from around the world. It'll be a boatload of fun.
Ancient, right?
Yeah, all of it, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow night, if you're in and around on a Friday night, check out the Church of Mavis at 8 p.m. That's Eastern. And right after that at 10 p.m., check out The Centralist for all you diehard, want to let go some of that angst and some politics and stuff. Get in there and just get right in there, because he's, Joe Montaldo and whoever he's co-hosting with. He has guest co-hosts that come on, and you will definitely get a lot of interaction and you'll be able to participate. So do that. In the meantime, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.